You're not going to go wrong consulting with a lawyer immediately after a crash. If anything, you're going to get some advice that maybe things that you're being told that you didn't think about, such as preserving evidence. Because most people, they're in a crash, they're thinking about if they got an injury, how am I going to treat? How much is it going to cost to fix my car? How am I going to get to work? All these things. So the last thing that the people that are involved in these crashes are typically thinking about is preserving evidence.
And make sure you tell them too, like if you have any indication or any suspicion that the other person that was at fault, but that other person has changed their story or maybe omitted some information when talking to the police, if you know that, then that makes it even more vital to try to get some of that surrounding surveillance footage if there is any. Like look around the area, and if there are any businesses nearby, you can ask them. Usually what the business will tell you is that they won't give it to you without a subpoena. Now the police can go in and on the spot, they can ask them for it and the police can get it, and that would be very helpful. I would especially do that if the other driver is starting to waffle. If the other driver is saying something like, oh no, I didn't do that, or I was going straight, I wasn't turning, or whatever. If they're kind of changing their story at the scene, definitely ask the police if they can go into the closest business and secure any video footage. Because just like, our Ring cameras and our dash cameras, that video gets recorded over after a few days, it will happen with the businesses around too. And so by the time we get involved and realize that it's contested and that video surveillance would be very helpful, sometimes they just don't have that footage anymore. And then, that stinks.
Don't assume that the officer is going to check to see if there's any surveillance in the area. I would go personally, if it were me involved in the accident, go to that certain business and ask them if they have camera that can capture this certain area where your crash happened, so that, and if they do, then if you know that it is that's there, then again, they're not obligated to preserve it at that point. You probably need to go talk to a lawyer at that juncture, so the lawyer can get out a letter to that certain business so that they don't destroy that evidence, which again could be critical for your particular case.
And certainly we find that smaller businesses, like locally owned businesses, are a lot more likely, if you're very nice, they're a lot more likely to give you that footage. Corporate businesses like gas stations or Walmarts again, or ones that are managed nationwide, they're less likely. They have processes for that, so they're less likely to just go ahead and give you the surveillance. And we want to be clear, just because we're involved doesn't mean that we can get that evidence on the spot. We're not entitled to it, and you're not entitled to it without a subpoena. But, when you're very nice to the business or they have no reason not to give it to you, we find that we do often have success in getting the footage as long as we get started on it almost immediately.